Hello, everybody. Vasu Vaddiparty here with Charlie O. Hang on one second. Hello, everybody. Vasu Vaddiparty with Charlie O here, the Make the Money and Run podcast for July 30th, 2021. We're all kind of crunching time here because it's trade deadline day. We'll get to the trade deadline in a second. The NBA draft took place last night, and the Lakers ended up getting another piece. We'll see how good that is. Not sure. There's been a lot of speculation on that. One Russell Westbrook. We'll talk about that as well, too. And, of course, the NFL training camp start. We'll hit that for a few minutes. Nothing really going on. But I didn't realize we're 1 week away from preseason games. Actually, 1 week from the Hall of Fame game and 2 weeks away from the preseason game. So we'll touch in on training camps a little bit for the Friday edition. As always on Friday, the weekend review and the preview of the weekend games coming up. Charlie O is here. Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on the podcast, powered by Stables Media. Thanks to everybody on Facebook and YouTube Live. You can catch us every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Mondays at 3 Eastern, Thursdays at noon Eastern, and Fridays at 1 Eastern, and all the Pacific times that correspond with it. Facebook and YouTube. Download, subscribe, rate, and review. Anywhere you get your podcast, we appreciate all the hits and all the likes, getting a lot of support. Thanks to our guest, Daniel Lust, from yesterday. Very informative on the Big 12 SEC showdown, so we say, and also his take on the Oakland A's versus the city of Oakland and his fandom for the San Francisco Giants as well, too. Check out our social media. You can check out our social media at 6 Eastern today, as all the trade deadlines will have already been done. The expiration date is 4 o'clock on the East. If we have any more picks, there's 3 games that don't have lines right now, Charlie. So by 6 o'clock Eastern, if there's anything in those games, Jose Barrios is one of them. He's one of the trade names, Minnesota, St. Louis. So we'll see where it goes from there. Check out our Facebook, our social media, Instagram, and also the Make the Money and Run Facebook page, as well as Twitter at MTMAR Podcast. And on email, mtmarpodcast@gmail.com. Charlie, as we go into the weekend, how are you after yesterday's flurry?
Well, it's interesting, Vasu. We used to call July and all the way through about mid-August the dead zone, because it was baseball and nothing else. And baseball used to be kind of a drag during this time, other than a trade deadline that didn't mean anything because we still had the waiver situation. And now with a real trade deadline, and because the NBA went, forever this year, and we've got football coming right on top of us, no dead zone this year. So it is absolutely wild. And I wore the Shamrock hat today because I'm wishing good luck to everyone. We had the NBA draft last night. We've got the trade deadline today. So everybody needs as much luck as possible because there is just movement everywhere. So I'm great. I mean, if you're a sports fan, how can you not be great today? Unmute yourself, Vasu.
Nobody wants to hear me cough. Maybe somebody doesn't want to hear me speak. But anyway, in fact, we just got the source. We'll get to it in a second. But Jose Barrios is on the move, so that game will probably be off the board. Minnesota, St. Louis, as we get there, the Toronto Blue Jays are going after Jose Barrios. That's according to sources. We'll get to all that in a second. You can check out the betting lines as we have them right now at the bottom. The National League, the American League, the 2 interleague games that we have. As we said, the 3 games that are not on the board right now are the Nationals and the Cubs, for obvious reasons. COVID involved with Washington too. Chicago, a couple of trades. Seattle and Texas also off the board right now until they get all their players. And then Minnesota had Jose Barrios scheduled to start tonight against the Cardinals in St. Louis. Apparently he is being traded as well. So they are off the board. You can see it at the bottom now. Stay tuned at 6 o'clock Eastern for all our social media posts in case we have game changes or picks going on. You can keep track of the National League, American League, all the baseball lines at the bottom as well. All right, let's start with the MLB draft. As we said, geez, holy cow. 1 o'clock Pacific time where we are is the absolute deadline. There's going to be no more trading, no more non-waiver trading deadline after today, Charlie. And so you look at all the teams and what they're doing, there's going to be a flurry more. And if there's any updates during our show, we'll give them to you in this 1 o'clock hour, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock hour that we have on the Make the Money and Run podcast. And we'll also fit in how it affects the betting situations, because I saw some changes already on the futures for the World Series and futures for the American League and National League championships as well, too, Charlie. So let's go through it. We already know about Joey Gallo. yesterday. That came down on Wednesday. We talked about it. Anthony Rizzo was talked to be to Boston. He goes to the Yankees instead. So now they've got two left-handed hitters for that short porch in New York. They're only 2.5 games back, if I remember right. We did this yesterday. Let me get the standings up on my phone. They're only 2.5 games back of the wild card. 8.5 back after getting thumped by the Rays, 14-0 yesterday. Garrett Cole, by the way, was the recipient of that beatdown in the first 3 innings, and then it was 14-0, the final score by Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay moves to 1.5 games in the standings behind Boston. The Yankees are still 8.5 back. But here's the key. The A's won last night, so the Yankees are only 3.5 back, a game back of Seattle for the second wild card spot. So good moves by the Yankees to go after Gallo and Rizzo. Gallo, I think, has one more year in his contract. Rizzo's a free agent at the end of this year, and that makes Luke Voit very expendable since he's been injured after leading the major leagues in home runs in the shortened season last year, Charlie.
Well, I felt, the Gallo move I thought was very good for the Yankees. And I felt the Rizzo move was classic old style Yankees. Oh, Boston wants him? No, we'll take him. I mean, seriously, I felt it was a classic Yankees block a move. I mean, not that Rizzo won't help them. I think Rizzo will help them, but it was classic. We're not going to let Boston have him. So, and Rizzo will come, he'll help the Yankees. But I thought it was an excellent blocking move right there to keep themselves in it. And now the Yankees are loaded up. But the problem is they still didn't address their closer situation. And, I don't know what's wrong with Chapman. I don't know. I have to believe. I don't think it's a head thing. I really don't. He's never had that issue. So I have to believe that it's something physically with him. And if they don't address that closer situation between now and the end of the trade deadline time, I think they still have problems because you've got to have a closer in order to be a winner down the line and in the playoffs. So they need to do something between now and the end of the day to address that part of their game.
It'll be interesting to see what the Yankees do. I think more starting pitching. We'll get to each division and their needs, as because we're doctors here on the show, and so we can fix everything. And so we have 3 hours to help everybody on the trade deadline. They're all watching Make the Money and Run right now, so that we can help them with their betting prospects as well as their team prospects to get them into the World Series prize. So Joey Gallo and Rizzo to the Yankees. We'll talk about their issues in a second. Schwarber to Boston. Kyle Schwarber still on the injured list. What a run he had in June for the Nationals with all the home runs that he hit. But he's going to Boston. They might be overloaded in outfielders, or they didn't want the Yankees to get another left-handed bat, one or the other, or Toronto for that matter, because Toronto could probably use him as a DH. Their DHs haven't done very well this year now that George Springer has gone back in the outfield. Kyle Schwarber to Boston. They've already got J.D. Martinez as a DH. Fenway Park left field is difficult to play if you play the wall, but it's not that difficult in terms of the distance and the depth, and he's got a really good arm. So left field might be good for him if he's healthy. And J.D. Martinez, of course, you got Verdugo. And you've got this kid, Jared Duran, who's in center field, who's roaming the center field now. And they've got Kike Hernandez. They've got a surplus of outfielders. So they might be able to move Hernandez into the infield now permanently and solve that problem that they had at second base that they were using with Chavis and Dahlbeck on the right side. And also Rizzo at first base is for the Yankees. But I thought Rizzo would be good for the Red Sox because Bobby Dahlbeck's only hitting 220, and he's a right-handed power hitter from the minor leagues last year. Came up last year, middle of last year, or in 2019, played all of 2020, but he's not hitting for power at Fenway.
And I think we just lost Vasu for a little bit there. We'll get him back in just a minute. But yeah, the Red Sox need to address some other issues because they have really loaded up on outfielders. It's hard to know, free trade deadline and free agency, trying to play all those things together. We always like to say, hey, pick this guy and go, but you also are dealing with salaries and there are no salary caps in baseball, but you have salary budgets, and teams aren't willing to just spend and spend and spend and spend. And you also have to look at contracts. How much contract are you willing to take on? Teams are willing to take on expiring contracts. that is always something they're willing to take on because, well, it's going to expire and you can move on from the next year. But when you have a situation where you have like a player option, even if the player option is that the team can opt out, you usually have a buyout there, so that's going to cost you money. So there's so much at play when you start to get to a trade deadline. It's not like, hey, that guy's available, so we'll take him. What are you taking on? So if you're just taking on a contract that's expiring, well, then that's good. But does he fit you? You can't, just getting a star isn't the answer. Does the star fit you? And then what is the financial load on it? And I think that's what we don't understand, that all of these decisions, I mean, the war rooms in all of these stadiums around the country right now are just insane because of the decision making that's going on and the multiple decisions that are having to be made right now, Vasu.
Yeah, the internet. I don't know what's going on with the internet. I know it's still hot down here in San Jose, so who knows what's going on with that. But glad to be back. As we said, some of the things that are going on in baseball right now. Houston trades for 2 closers. Don't know if Graveman is going to be the 8th inning guy or the 9th inning guy. Yimi Garcia from the Miami Marlins, who probably not a lot of people have heard of, but he's nearly perfect in save opportunities for the Marlins when they do have leads. But they traded him, kind of surprised because he's a young guy and they've got control over him. Kendall Graveman, I didn't realize is a free agent at the end of the year. And so that's probably what went into Jerry DiPoto's thinking. Seattle gets Diego Castillo, who's going to be with the team till 2024. So that's a controllable piece. And so if you got a closer for 3 years, that's probably why they went after him, thinking they may not be able to keep Kendall Graveman. But boy, to trade to Houston within the division, we talked about that yesterday as well, too. That's just something. And I know the A's people are very, very upset with that. We'll get to the A's in a second. Of course, Adam Frazier, Nelson Cruz, Jock Peterson, all previously traded. Daniel Hudson, when Washington says they're going to sell everybody, they sold everybody. Daniel Hudson, the World Series hero of 2019, also goes to San Diego. And then the White Sox trying to improve their bullpen. Liam Hendricks blew his 5th save the other day against the Royals. The Royals beat the White Sox 2 out of 3 during the week. Ryan Tepera, a very good reliever for the Cubs, goes cross town to the White Sox, and hopefully he can bridge that gap because all their starters are basically going 5 1/3 innings, including Lance Lynn, who has who just signed a 2-year extension with the White Sox, and he's on a roll right now, and the White Sox are on a roll. And when we get to the AL Central, I'll tell you, all they basically have to do is not blow the division. They also traded for Cesar Hernandez within the division again, and they're playing the Indians tonight in a 3-game series, so that'll be weird as well. Some of the other moves that went on, Brad Hand, Washington again trading their closer to Toronto. Brad Hand goes to Toronto. Cesar Hernandez, just mentioned, the second baseman for the Indians. Now with the White Sox, they'll play each other in a 3-game series. The Indians, I believe, are 9 games back. As I get back to my phone here, they're 9 games back to the White Sox, so it's pretty comfortable for Chicago right now as we approach the trading deadline. Eduardo Escobar, 20 home runs for the Diamondbacks. He's going to a hitter's park in Milwaukee. They need offense. Their pitching's outstanding, Charlie, but Eduardo Escobar is going to add some offense to that third base spot or second base spot because he can play both positions, and hopefully he'll help them offensively. Of course, Christian Yelich is out for 10 days. He's under contact tracing rules right now. So Yelich out, Escobar in. That's going to help. The A's made 2 moves. They got Andrew Chafin the other day, the left-hander from the Cubs. Starling Marte from the Marlins going to play center field. You got to be really good to move Ramon Laureano out of center field into right field, and they really like Starling Marte. Hopefully they'll get a chance to sign him. He's only 32 years old. He's a 5-tool player. He doesn't hit for as much power, but I would give him 5 tools. And in Oakland, I bet he hit some home runs as well, too. The Tyler Anderson trade finally went down with Pittsburgh. He's at Seattle, gives them another starter. Mentioned Chafin. And the Pirates traded Clay Holmes to the Yankees. Clay Holmes, one of the Pittsburgh relievers, for being a bad team. They sure had a lot of guys hot in commodity, and Brian Reynolds still on the trading block for the Pirates. I don't know if they'll get rid of Brian Reynolds, Charlie, but
yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, let's blow up Washington. I mean, okay, yeah, we really are going to blow it up, and they've done so. And of course, we aren't talking about the big trade, and that's
we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, these are some of the trades that are happening right now. And Rich Hill finally to the New York Mets, surprising the Tampa Bay. Are you surprised that Tampa Bay traded some of these pieces? They were in first and second place, and yet they traded Rich Hill, they traded Diego Castillo, they got Nelson Cruz. And now they're going to get some. Now they're going to try and use Fairbanks and guys like that they used in the ALCS and the World Series to try and shut down games for the Tampa Bay Rays, Charlie.
I was surprised about the Hill trade. That was the one that surprised me the most because he's had he's had pretty good track record down the end of the season to the end of the season and in the playoffs. So that one did surprise me a little bit. But the part of it that doesn't surprise me is that it's Tampa Bay, and they, it's okay. We have 107 pitchers on our roster, and we will use them all. So you never know exactly what their thinking is. And for the Mets, just get a lot of tape for the fingers for Hill, because he's going to blister, and pray that he doesn't blister too much. But yeah, that one did surprise me.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in terms of the Rich Hill going to the New York Mets, because Jacob deGrom has had a history of injuries and he's out right now. The Mets holding on to a 5-game lead, I believe, over the Phillies. The Phillies were lucky to get back in game 2. They got a 7-run 7th inning, or 7-run 8th inning in the extra innings in game 2 of the doubleheader. They were able to salvage that split with the Nationals. Max Scherzer pitched an outstanding game in his last game as a National. 6 innings, 1 earned run, allowed the home run to JT Realmuto. They won 3-1. And then the closer, they didn't have Brad Hand. They didn't have anybody to close. Washington closes out. Brad Miller hits a walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the 8th inning for the Phillies' 11-8 win over the Nationals. They are 3.5 back of the New York Mets, who got beat by the Braves yesterday. The Braves take 3 out of 5 in that series. The Braves and Brewers will go in a good series this weekend, and the Mets have the Cincinnati Reds this weekend, and what's going to be another good series. So a lot of manipulation between the Reds and the Brewers and the Braves and the Mets this weekend as they continue on towards their march towards their division titles and or wild cards. Obviously, the NL West with the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres, they're fighting it out not only for the division, but unless the Reds get hot or one of these other teams in the East gets hot, it looks like both the teams are going to make the wild card games, and that's why all the trading took place. So I'm looking up here as I give me a second here, as I'm looking up right here to see if any of the game lines have moved for the Minnesota Twins or the Cardinals. Nothing on the Nationals and Cubs. The Cardinals and Twins are not on there as well. And then the third one that we said was Seattle, Texas, and Seattle's still getting all their players. Texas is unsure what they're going to do with Kyle Gibson. All right, as we move on, you can keep track of the betting lines as we have them at the bottom of the screen. The National League, the American League, the Interleague games, Houston, San Francisco, a big series in the Bay Area this weekend as well. All right, we talked about the trade deadline. Now let's get to the big trades. The big trades this weekend coming up now. If I was a Dodgers fan, and I am a Dodgers fan for those that know, they really took it to San Diego and San Francisco. And not only that, did they help themselves as well, too. And I'm not going to go on a soliloquy because nobody needs to hear a Dodgers soliloquy right now because we're still in second place. Max Scherzer and Trey Turner are traded from the Washington Nationals, and we knew Scherzer was on the block, had no idea about Trey Turner. When Mike Rizzo said everybody's on the block except Juan Soto, he really meant everybody. We said that earlier. Trey Turner is going to be the shortstop of the future for the Washington Nationals, for at least for the Dodgers now for 2 more years. Max Scherzer will be a free agent this year. He chose where to go. He's a 10-5 guy, which means 10 years with the same team and 10 years in the big leagues and 5 years with the same team. So he had a right to veto any trade. And if he vetoed a trade, then he could automatically become a free agent at the end of the year if that's in the middle of a contract. But he's a free agent at the end of the year. The Dodgers have gotten Max Scherzer. Julio Urias has 12 wins, should have had 13 the other night. Kershaw on the injured list. He's going to come back in 2 weeks. And Walker Buehler was outstanding in San Francisco on Wednesday night. He's 11-1. So not bad for a foursome. If you're going to go into a playoff series, they're still 3 games back of the Giants. They're a couple of games ahead of they're 2.5 games ahead of the Padres, 3 up in the loss column on the Padres, but they're in second place, solely in second place. By the way, the Dodgers and their injuries, and I'm hearing a lot of it. The Giants, congratulations to the Giants on their depth. Their depth has kept them in the best record, and that's what they're banking on right now. I mean, who would have thought Lamont Wade? Who would have thought Darren Ruff? Who would have thought Yastrzemski was going to have a big year? But he's a starter. Slater and Dickerson, platooning in the outfield, have been good. Jason Vossler at third base. What they've done to fill in for Crawford and Longoria has been great. Tommy La is not even back yet. Don't forget Brandon Belt's still out, and maybe Brandon Belt's a trade piece. Who knows? Because of how good Ruff and Wade are playing. I doubt it, but Brandon Belt's still there as far as the San Francisco Giants go. Do you want to mess up the Giants right now? They need to add pieces, and some of the pieces that are out there are still out there. But Scherzer and Turner are going to go to L.A. Corey Seager's going to come back off injury this weekend against the Diamondbacks. I don't know if he's going to play short or they're going to move him to second because they've had problems at second base, and Muncy will go to first and Bellinger go to the outfield. A lot of machinations now. And don't forget, oh, by the way, Mookie Betts is on the 10-day IL, and he's going to come back in about 2 weeks too. I'm feeling pretty good as a Dodgers fan, Charlie.
Well, you should be. And the one thing that I'm very interested in right now is, you can talk about the Giants' depth and you can talk about a lot of things at this point, but San Diego has done a lot. They've added a lot of pieces to their team. Now, I know there's weaknesses, but they've done a lot to try to shore themselves up. Obviously, the Dodgers made a superstar move in what they've done to shore themselves up. Right now, the team that hasn't done anything is the Giants. And I'm a little amazed at this point. If you want to stay involved, if you want to be in this run at this point, which we've all been shocked over. I mean, everyone in baseball, if you said that you saw this coming with the Giants, you're a liar. Okay. I mean, I'm just sorry. You're a liar because nobody saw this coming. And they have an incredible opportunity right now to win now. I know this is not in their time frame. This wasn't on their calendar. This season was at least 3 seasons away for them on their timeline. Well, sometimes good things happen and you blow your calendar up, but they cannot stand pat. They need to make some moves. They need another pitcher, maybe another power hitter. You've got to do something to keep pace with San Diego and LA. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in third place and out of everything. I really believe that because these other 2 teams are serious about winning now. And sometimes you've got to get serious about winning now. And this is my statement about the Giants. Sometimes the Giants get so excited about, we have this beautiful stadium on the bay and we sell so many tickets that we're just happy about standing pat and we believe in our team with the depth. And it all becomes about making money. They are an organization that makes a ton of money. And sometimes they don't care about their fans. Sometimes they don't care about the product on the field. And that's just honest. And I've watched this team since 1971. And so I've got a little bit of history in watching this team closely. And I really believe that. So unless they make some moves to shore this team up, I'm making the statement they're not serious about winning because their competition has shored themselves up and thrown down the gauntlet and have said, we want to win and we want to win now.
So Max Scherzer, Trey Turner going to the Dodgers. The Padres have gotten Adam Frazier. They're looking into another starting pitcher, Jose Barrios, off the market now. All reports indicate he's going to the Toronto Blue Jays. Taylor Rogers, the left-hander, the twin brother of Tyler Rogers of the Giants, on the block for the Twins, as is Caleb Thabar. A lot of other relievers out there. The Pirates relievers are a hot commodity. If they could some way get Rodriguez from the Pirates, the Giants, or any team that gets him, he's a great 8th-inning guy if you've already got a closer, or you could insert him into a closer. Maybe Tampa Bay is going after – he's cheap. Maybe Tampa Bay is going after Rodriguez as a closer. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. We're 2.5 hours away from the finality of the trade deadline. All right, we're going to break it down division by division when we come back, each division and what their needs are, according to Charlie and I. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, David and Mike. Mike, are you still getting game checks from the Houston Astros? I'm not rooting for the Astros. Or you become a Dodger fan from your Southern California roots, Mike Gallo. Come talk to us sometime on our podcast. You're watching the Make the Money and Run podcast. Back in 30 seconds, we're going to break down the division by division needs as we see it for the trade deadline, and we'll give it to you as it relates to futures odds in the betting world. Vasu and Charlie here on a Friday, July 30th, 2021. See you in 30. Welcome back to the Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, July 30th, 2021. The week in review, the weekend coming up, all the big deals going on in the National Basketball Association. We'll get to the NBA in a second. Obviously, draft night last night, the Russell Westbrook trade talked about by everybody as well. Charlie unhappy with the Sacramento Kings, as we've heard on previous shows. It's going to be unhappier when we get to the NBA section in a second. But let's go on with baseball. You can catch us every Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays right here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. You can download, subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Also, send us emails. Hit us up on Twitter, Make the Money and Run, also on Facebook page. All these 3 games don't have betting lines right now. We'll keep that going at the bottom for the ticker before we get to the games. And it's going to be impacted by the trade deadline. So by 6 o'clock Eastern, Charlie and I, if we have any additions to our picks or any addendums to our picks, we'll let you know by 6 Eastern on our Facebook and Twitter page, as well as our all social media pages on Instagram and the Make the Money and Run Facebook page as well, too. All right, we got to the trades. Let's get to the divisions, division by division. Let's start with the NL East because it's very interesting to me. I'm not sure who wants to win the NL East right now. Watching the Mets and Braves play, the Mets don't have any bats. The Braves bullpen is very inconsistent, sad. In fact, Will Smith doesn't inspire me to great things for the Atlanta Braves. Even with Acuna Jr. out, their offense is still really good. Showed up in the Mets series. Phillies are just looking for consistency. Their offense is supposed to be really good, but they go through stretches. Even their own broadcasters are questioning if they're any good because they're very inconsistent. That's Larry Anderson. Anybody that knows Larry Anderson's humor will understand what he means. Go back and listen to that as well, too. And obviously, the Miami Marlins and the Washington Nationals, we know what they're doing. They're selling off pieces as they go on. So Miami and Washington still Washington, a major player in this trade deadline, selling off everybody, trying to get the assets. Of course, the Scherzer trade, the Brad Hand trade, Kyle Schwarber going to Boston yesterday. Starlin Castro, I think, just got suspended yesterday as well, too. So somebody might go after him as well, too. So keep up on the betting lines on the bottom of the screen. But what do you think about the NL East, Charlie, as we hit them real quick?
You know what? If I'm in the NL East, I'm not. I think, first of all, I think the Mets are just spending money to spend money. I think they feel desperate. And so they're throwing money at different positions just because I think they feel like they need to stay on top there in New York. I don't think they're serious players to do anything in the postseason, frankly, because I think they're in one of the weakest divisions in all of baseball. Philly, like you said, is very inconsistent. I don't think they're a player once they get into the playoffs.
Let me ask you this about the Mets then. Where's Chris Bryant fit? His name's been tagged with the Mets because their third base production is not very good right now. Luis Guillorme and Brandon Drury and other guys that they put in there.
I think it's a marquee name to placate the fans. I really do. I think it's hey, look, we're trying to make our team better. And sometimes you do that. I mean, you've got an owner right now who's not afraid to spend money. But I think it's a Band-Aid that will keep you on top in the East, but it's not going to take you home. I mean, they're not going to be in the World Series, for heaven's sakes. I mean, you know that, and I know that. But with where they are in the division, they can't allow themselves to fall out. And they're in New York, and they have the opportunity to stay in competition with the Yankees, and they want to stay in competition for the dollar in the big market. So, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is a business. And so they want to do that. Philly, too inconsistent. And I think for Atlanta, unfortunately for Braves fans, they've just been hit up with too much this season. I mean, you can shore it up. You can do some things. They might make a wild card, but it's not serious. The National League East is just not going to be competitive in the postseason, in my opinion. So
I think the
spend a
wild
little
card,
money if you want, but it's wasted.
I think the wild card probably too far to go for the Braves. They're 8 back of the Padres for that second wild card spot. They are 4.5 back. I think I saw that. 4 back in the division, 5 back in the loss column. The 3 out of 5 against the Mets help. DeGrom comes back healthy. That's a player for them. Rich Hill, a good addition to the starting rotation. Walker struggled the last 3 starts. If he turns it around a little bit, that's 3 starters, and you never know what you can do in the bullpen. But they've got to hit better, and they're not hitting well right now. They've got guys in that lineup that shouldn't be in that lineup right now that are backup guys. Kevin Pillar and Brandon Drury, like I said. Nothing against those guys. They're all great. They're all good players in their own right, but they're not guys like Chris Bryant or guys like the Dodgers have, or the teams that are contending right now. And the Braves bullpen, Will Smith doesn't inspire me to great things in terms of 7 games. And we know the pitching has been pretty good. Starting's been okay, but they really don't have any starting pitching right now. And the fact that they're 51-52, 4 games back, 5 in the division of the Mets, who are only 7 games, 54-47. The Mets are playing the best baseball in that division, so you got to look for them to possibly continue on. But I cannot see a wild card coming up unless Philadelphia gets really, really hot. All right, let's move to the NL. Let's move to the NL Central here. Looks like it's going to be a 2-team race, if that. The Cardinals are 9.5 back. The Cubs are 11.5 back. Of course, we know Pittsburgh's selling off key players in their trade. They traded Frazier. Reynolds might be on the move. The relief pitchers are a hot commodity, as we said. Clay Holmes already been traded to the Yankees, and Rodriguez, a big name. I think he's only blown 1 save this year for the Pirates. So when they've had a lead, he's been really good. And I think he's only given up 1 earned run this whole year, and we're at August 1st already. So that's real, real good. And any team could use a Richard Rodriguez right there. So the Reds and the Brewers. Reds are 7 back in the loss column, 7 overall. Both have played 103 games. Brewers 7-3 in their last 10. The Reds 6-4. Reds bullpen, Reds pitching overall. Sonny Gray going today. He struggled. They haven't had a very good season from the mound standpoint, and their bullpen's been awful. I think their bullpen ERA is about 6.5. And yeah, you can lay some of it to the ballpark, but you got to throw strikes. They walk too many guys. Their offense, they've had some injuries. They don't know what they're going to do. Castellanos is still out. That hurts. He's an all-star outfielder. He was leading the league in hitting when he went down with the injury. Jesse Winker having a great year. How about Joey Votto? 6 straight games with a home run. I mean, he's certainly turned the dial up, and I'm sure he's 14 or 15 years in the league now. I'm sure he wants to get to the playoffs, and this might be the best chance. And who knows? And who knows if they're going to have another shot? And Milwaukee's not great offensively. I know they got Escobar, but those pitchers for Milwaukee, Charlie, as we wrap up the NL Central with Corbin Burns going tonight, Brandon Woodruff on the mound, and Brandon Woodruff, and then Freddie Peralta, the 3 starters, and then you got Devin Williams in the 8th inning. Josh Hader, everybody knows about Josh Hader from the playoffs last year and the All-Star games that he's already been in. He's on fire, left-handed flamethrower, 98 coming out of the bullpen. So you got to think it's Milwaukee's division unless somebody else gets hot, meaning the Cincinnati Reds, and you're a Reds guy.
Well, first of all, Milwaukee needs to add a bat, okay? Because
another bat.
Because that's their problem. I mean, obviously pitching they've got taken care of. They need to add another bat. They need to add a power bat is what they need to help them along. The Reds, I don't really expect the Reds to do much on the market. They might add a pitcher. I think if they add a pitcher, it's not going to be a name pitcher at this point. What have I always told you? The Reds get hot in July and August because that ballpark helps them. They can create a lot of offense. They don't have the pitching right now to support that offense. They'll be exciting. They're always fun to watch. And in September, we'll go, oh, the poor Reds and the poor Reds fans, and where did I grow up? I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I know a lot about the Reds. I've been to that ballpark a lot. I used to take my dad there all the time. Every year I'd go back and take my dad down for a couple of ball games. I know that ballpark, and they'll be entertaining. They are not going to the playoffs, folks. So don't waste your money wagering on the Reds.
They are too far away in the wild card. As we said, the wild card, they're 5 back of the Padres. I don't think anybody's going to mistake the Cincinnati Reds for the San Diego Padres, even with the Padres' shortcomings right now. Speaking of the Padres, let's go to the National League West. The Giants have the best record in baseball. Nobody in the Bay Area seems confident about them not standing still. And I know there's T-shirts being printed here that says, "In Farhan we trust," "In Farhan we trust," and there's all sorts of conjecture going on about what they need. Kevin Gausman has had 3 rough starts since the All-Star break, since he had to leave to go care for his wife in Louisiana, who, by the way, thankfully is all healthy after the hospital visit and everything like that. So more importantly, that's good. But they're laying off the splitter with Kevin Gausman. I don't know if they need another starting pitcher. They might have been in on Jose Barrios, but he's gone now. They could have been in on Scherzer, but I think Scherzer may have turned them down, wanted to go to LA because he thought LA may have had more potential. All the Giants fans are getting on me on Facebook. I'm sure you've seen some of it on Facebook. They're getting on me. They said, "We've been injured too." And I go, "But your depth is great. We're injured, but we don't have any depth. We lost Jock Peterson. We lost Verdugo. I say we like I'm part of it, but I am part of it. So Verdugo and all these guys that they've lost the last couple of years, they haven't been able to replace. Yeah, they've got a stacked farm system, but these kids aren't ready. And some of these other ball clubs are looking for talented, top-heavy farm systems like the Dodgers have. So they've done it very well. Andrew Friedman from his Tampa Bay days has done it really well. So you're looking at the Giants. Let's just take it today as it is today. Giants win the division. Dodgers, Padres playing a one-game wild card scenario playoff based on the standings today. Max Scherzer and Yu Darvish on the mound for one game. Of course, you're going to go after a starter because they're trying to get to the next round. In this one game, we've seen anything can happen in these one games. We saw the Rockies beat the Cubs 3 years ago in a game that Kyle Hendricks should have won hands down. But the Rockies behind John Gray won that wild card game. The wild card games, we've seen some screwy things. We saw that fake infield fly rule a few years ago with the Washington Nationals and the Cardinals that allowed the Washington Nationals to move on to the playoffs that year. I think it was 2014. That was the year they played the Giants in the NLDS from that wild card series. So anything can happen. And this one game, and that's why I think the Dodgers are better off than the Padres because they've got two Gold Glove second basemen, do the Padres, and Frazier and Cronenworth. They don't know who's going to play second, who's going to play outfield, who's going to play first right now. They've got a Gold Glove shortstop in Manny Machado. Yes, I said Manny Machado because Fernando Tatis has 22 errors at shortstop, and in a one game playoff, that could hurt what's going to happen to the Padres. And so Tatis hit his 30th home run. You can tell me to shut up, and you're right about that from the offensive side. Machado's a better shortstop. Maybe put Tatis at third. I don't know how that's going to go over well in the clubhouse, but the fact is that they got to do something to improve their defense. Tommy Pham's not hitting. Eric Hosmer is so-so right now. He's getting platooned. Will Myers, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. You got Grisham in the outfield. Frazier comes in. They're going to go after Chris Bryant. They're going to get after another bat. Because this is going to come down to a one-game wild card. Whoever wins the division is going to be in a better position, obviously. But do you want to face Max Scherzer in a one-game wild card, or Clayton Kershaw, or Arias, or Walker Buehler in a one-game playoff, or you want to face Yu Darvish or Blake Snell, or to be determined anybody else they're going to get, Charlie?
Well, let's go back to the Giants for a minute. If I'm the Giants, I'm looking at my competition. And the one thing that I'm feeling right now that I've got to do is I've got to add pitching. Okay. Because I'm in a division right now where I'm facing outstanding pitching. And as you come down to the end of the regular season and you get into the playoffs, what do you need? Pitching. So I don't care how good your pitching staff is. I don't care how good you believe your pitching staff is. You need pitching. And the other thing, and again, here I go. I'm playing Dr. Fauci again. But, we know that there is a lot of COVID and a lot of everything else out there right now. And we don't know how guys are going to be feeling. And guys may not come down with full-blown COVID, but there's a lot of that out there. Guys are not going to feel well. You've got all this stuff going around. And guys didn't play a full season last year. So now they're playing a full season. So there's going to be fatigue there this year that wasn't there last year. So if I'm the Giants right now, if I'm Farhan, I'm on the phone and I'm looking for pitching because I'm looking at the Dodgers. And I really am right now looking at the Dodgers as my number one competition because I'm looking at San Diego as being a wild card. And I'm looking at my number one competition has just made their pitching staff unbelievable. I need pitching. So that's what they've got to do. The Dodgers, I think they're done. I don't think they need to do anything else. I mean, good Lord. What else do they need to do?
They get Corey Seager off the injured list. They get Mookie Betts off the injured list. Clayton Kershaw comes back in maybe 10 days off the injured list as well, too. Maybe they're looking for another reliever to help out in the bullpen for the depth in the bullpen, and that's really all that they need. Taylor Rogers is out there, as we said. But as far as the Giants go, I'm sure the phones are bringing off the hook, and I'm sure the one thing that I heard, and I believe in this because it happened to the A's 6 years ago, we talked about it yesterday, with the chemistry issue, they're going to have to figure out who somebody's feelings are going to get hurt, but they want to improve the ball club. I heard Austin Slater say it on the radio last night. If he's the guy that has to get traded to help the ball club, that's part of baseball and that's business. And I'm sure the phone's off the hook right now. I think the Giants need more bullpen help than starting help. If they were to get a top 8 starter like a Barrios or Scherzer or a Kyle Gibson, somebody like that, then you go after him. But if there's a middle of the road starter, like I wouldn't go after Rich Hill if you already have the best record in baseball, type of thing. No offense against Rich Hill. I would go after a bullpen guy right now because they're not completely sold. I can't believe, even as fans, you can see it, they're not sold on Tyler Rogers and Jake McGee as their 8th and 9th inning guys for the reasons that were documented. And they're a cold streak away from falling all the way down to 3rd place. The division is not that far apart for them to go from the best record all the way down to 3rd place in the National League West. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's going to be interesting. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes away from the trade deadline. I'm looking to see if anything else has come down. Berrios' trade is official. One team eyeing Chris Bryant and Craig Kimbrell. It doesn't say here who it is. It looks like the Tampa Bay Rays are eyeing Chris Bryant and Craig Kimbrell right now. So maybe that's why they got rid of. This is according to Ken Rosenthal. He doesn't put out stuff unless there's actually some legs to it. So let's move on to the American League now, Charlie, as we continue with the Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, trade deadline day, July 30th, 2021, right here on Facebook and YouTube Live. Of course, you can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. The AL East, the Boston Red Sox, they need pitching more than they need hitting. I know they got Kyle Schwarber yesterday. They've got a glutton of outfielders. Maybe they're going to move somebody to first base. Maybe Kike Hernandez will come in and their second baseman, Chavis, or somebody will play first. But right now, offense is not their issue. They're hitting the ball really well. Their bullpen, to me, is a little weak. Matt Barnes has been great as a closer. Their middle relief is kind of where it's lagging a little bit, and probably another starting pitcher would help them too. Tampa Bay has made trades left and right, and if they get Craig Kimbrell, then you can see where the pieces fit now in terms of trading Rich Hill and Diego Castillo. The Yankees got Rizzo and Gallo. We know that. They need starting pitching. I think Chapman's okay. I'm not sure if it's a head thing, but he has been hit around a little bit this year. But their bullpen to get to the 8th and 9th inning is not good. I mean, all you got to do is see the guys, even in a 14-0 game yesterday, the guys that they threw out there in the middle of the game are guys that they use on a regular basis when they're winning. And then Toronto's out of Brad Hand, Jose Berrios, so they're good right there from that standpoint. Robbie Ray's having a good year. Hyun-Jin Ryu's having a pretty good year, and Ross Stripling is also having a good year. So if they can figure out a way to get back in this thing wild card wise, then maybe they've got a shot to get in there, because that pitching staff, and anything can happen in a 3 to 5 game series if they can get there, and that's the whole point. And a 1-game wild card, I would go with Ryu on a 1-game wild card. I would go with Jose Berrios on a 1-game wild card, depending on who they play. Somebody from the American League West. We know how the American League West teams fare in wild card games, whether it be the Houston Astros or the Oakland A's, or even in their division, if it ends up being a Yankees and Tampa Bay wild card, 1-game wild card series, if Tampa Bay is still in a wild card position at that point. So the AL East, real quickly, Charlie.
Yeah, I agree with you. Boston needs some pitching. That's where I would emphasize it at this point. Tampa Bay, I think they're taking care of all their needs. I mean, I'm really amazed that Tampa Bay is making these many moves. This is not characteristic for them, but I think it shores up the belief that they believe they can win. So I'm interested to see what they're doing there. The Yankees, I think the Yankees are throwing money at the wall. And again, I think the Rizzo thing was a beautiful block. I think that philosophically, that was a beautiful move that we could look at the end of the season and say, yeah, that was sharp. And Toronto, Toronto's just going to have to hang in there. I think Toronto is one of those situations where we could look at and just say, hey, you know what? They just hung in there and they took advantage. But I think that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to just be there and ready to pounce, because they're going to need some things to fall their way in order to jump in there.
Oakland 3.5 games back in the second wildcard spot of Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay only a game back of the Red Sox in the American League East. Oakland is 5.5 back, 6 back in the loss column of Houston. Houston has the Giants this weekend. Oakland continues their series with the Angels. We'll get to the games in a second. But as far as the wild card goes, Charlie, Seattle 2.5 back of the A's. The Yankees are 3.5 back. The Blue Jays 4.5 back. The Indians 5.5 back, which I'm kind of surprised that they're not going for it a little bit, but maybe too many teams, and maybe they just don't have enough hitting talent. By the way, I hope Terry Francona feels better. He's taking the rest of the season off for health issues again, second year in a row. And the Angels are 6 back, and even though they lost last night, they've got Ohtani, they've got guys on that team that can swing the bat, but they just don't have the pitching either. I mean, Dylan Bundy went out and threw for the Angels last night, 1-7, and at one time he was good, but he did not look good last night, and he had no control at all And then it goes down to Detroit, KC, Minnesota, Texas, and Baltimore, all out of the wild card spot. So it's going to be an interesting way to see it as far as the American League East. The American League Central, White Sox, just don't blow it. You're up 9 games. You're up 8 games on the Indians right now. Just don't blow it. Liam Hendricks, Tony La Russa, you got a good staff. Your hitting's really good. You just traded for Cesar Hernandez within the division to play second base. He's going to fill your second base spot. He's your leadoff guy. Oh, by the way, he has 18 home runs for a team that already has, I think, 135 home runs or something like that. If they're not leading the American League, they're right there in American League stats for leading the league in home runs. Lance Lynn has been good. Carlos Rodon has been good. I know Kansas City gave them trouble this week, but their starters have been good. Hendricks has been blown 5 saves this year, and they've got to maybe get another relief pitcher if they think they need somebody. Maybe there's somebody in the waiver wire after today that they can go after. So we'll see. But if I were the White Sox, I'd definitely keep my eyes up. Like we talked about with Daniel Lust yesterday. If people are going to call and offer you, then go ahead and listen. But I wouldn't go out and trade anybody from an eight game lead standpoint in the American League Central. All right, the American League West. The American League West, as we get to it, the Houston Astros are coming into San Francisco this weekend. A big series, as you can tell. The from the bottom, the lines at the bottom have the Houston Astros a $1.14 underdog. Gossman not that heavy a favorite for the Giants tonight, but Houston comes into San Francisco. Dusty Baker focusing and facing his old team. They address their needs. They still maybe need a starter. They've got Greinke, they've got Valdez, they've got Luis Garcia. I like Greinke. Obviously, he's been a veteran. Garcia's throwing the ball well. Valdez, his control needs to be managed a little bit. We'll see how he does against the Giants tonight. But now they've got Kendall Graveman. They've got Yimi Garcia back into the bullpen. Don't forget they still have Will Smith. They traded Joe Smith in the Graveman trade. And they've got Ryan Presley, who was their closer coming into this weekend. But I got to think Garcia or Graveman is going to end up being the closer in that situation. And Presley goes back to where he's comfortable in the 6th or 7th inning, Charlie.
Yeah, Houston, amazing. Every time I see the Astros this year, I ask myself the question, why did they do all the stupid stuff that they did? With all the sign stealing and the buzzers and all of this stuff, because they are obviously such a talented team. And it just makes me sad that we will always have the history of that lunacy, because they're a very talented team. Now, I'm also very excited because I love Dusty Baker. Dusty's a great guy, a very talented manager, and he's got this team playing great baseball. And I think that the A's have such an uphill battle at this point. They're going to be stuck in that one game wild card playoff scenario in which they have a history of not doing well at all with. And I think Houston has themselves in a very, very good spot right now. I mean, they would have to have major injuries and a big slide to put themselves out of it at this point. And I don't really sense right now that they're going to make any other big moves. You look at Oakland right now. Oakland needs to do one thing, in my opinion, and it doesn't appear right now that they're going to do it. I really thought they were going to address the shortstop situation.
Trevor Story's still out there.
What's that?
Trevor Story's still out there. Javier Baez's still out there.
I know, because Andrus, he's great defensively, but I mean, the guy is. I mean, his OPS is 534 for heaven's sakes. I mean,
well, he was hitting 115 to open the year.
I know. 2 home runs, 34 RBI, and the guy, he replaced has got 24 home runs and I don't know 64 RBI or something. I mean, you just can't take that kind of offensive reduction and expect that you're going to get to where you want to go. So I really believe that they've got to do something at that spot if they think they're going to stay competitive. What do they got? 2 hours to make it happen. They need, they've got to do something there. And if they don't, they're going to have to look in the mirror and say, that was really dumb. We should have done something there.
Yeah, don't forget, we can't put them in the wild card right now because they're only 2.5 up on Seattle, and Seattle just beat them 3 out of 4. They've got 10 more games. I think 10 more games against Seattle left, and then they've already played the Yankees. They've already played Toronto, I think, in both series Actually, I think they did go to Buffalo already. By the way, Toronto's going to go back to Canada, I think, on August 1st, Canada Day. On Monday, we'll wish everybody a happy Canada Day early, but we'll do it on Monday.
Yeah, just 15,000 fans. They're going to still social distance and everything else. But, man, how exciting. Baseball back in Toronto.
Houston Astros, 63-40, the best record in the American League. The Giants are 64-38, the best record overall. Believe it or not, the Houston Astros are only a half a game better than the Red Sox. 63-41 is Boston for the best record in baseball. And don't think that doesn't make a difference now that they use records to determine home field advantage. The difference here, the Houston Astros are plus 150, Charlie, and the Red Sox are plus 57. So something gives there. And the Houston Astros, if they got any pitching at all left in these next 2 months, they might run away with this division. They might end up being the American League champions right now. We'll break down all the futures odds on Monday after all the trade deadline takes place, but we're going to take a 30-second break. We're going to talk NBA draft for a few minutes just to go over the first round picks, see what we like and we don't like, and then we'll make our world famous unsponsored picks in our pick segment at the end of the show. Back in 30 seconds. Vasu Vaddiparty here with Charlie O, the Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, July 30th, 2021, powered by Stables Media. Welcome back. Make the Money and Run podcast for Friday, July 30th, 2021. The trade deadline, exactly 2 hours and 6 minutes away from expiring right now. Let's check out Facebook right now. Hey, Tom, how are you? Dave, how are you? Mike Gallo, I know you're on there as well, too. Thanks for the props, everybody on Facebook and YouTube as well. Check out our post before 6 o'clock Eastern. Some of these games off the board right now due to the trade deadline, due to injury, due to COVID, if you're the Washington Nationals as well, too. So thanks to everybody. And if you missed any of it, including the pick segment that we're going to have in a few minutes, then you can download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Just find the symbol up there in the right corner to Make the Money and Run. Vasu Vaddiparty, Charlie O with you, the weekend review, the weekend coming up, as we have all the baseball lines. You see at the bottom the 3 games that are not on the board yet. And, of course, all the baseball lines at the bottom. We'll get to our pick segment, excuse me, in a second. But let's get to the NBA draft. A lot of things happen in the NBA draft. The Lakers pull off a big trade. Charlie, Russell Westbrook goes to the Lakers. Kyle Kuzma the other way to Washington. Some interesting picks. Obviously, it didn't go the way that everybody thought it was going to go in some cases. I love Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes got picked 4th by Toronto. People thought he was going to be as far down as 7th, 8th, and 9th. I don't think the Warriors were in on him. They were in on Kuminga, and they were in on Moses Moody, who they both got at 7 and 14. Jalen Suggs, I thought would be the number 2 pick, but this Green kid, what's his name? Jalen Green from the G League. I think that the way it was explained to me from him being in the G League, he's already understanding NBA defense, which is the biggest problem that college kids have in the NBA going into the NBA, but he's already been exposed to NBA defenses playing in the G League, and I think it's been good instead of the facade of these kids going for 1 year to college to go right to the G League, make a little money, and then if they're good enough, get into the draft. And then Evan Mobley, who I really like at USC. I've seen every game of his career at USC. Great defensive player, great rim protector. What does that do to Jared Allen? Evan Mobley, probably not ready to start yet, but if he comes in, plays the minutes that he played at USC, and he's a good ball handler as well, too. Surprised that Scotty Barnes was 4th, Suggs 5th, Josh Giddey 6th. That was a surprise, too. Franz Wagner 8th, and then Davion Mitchell. Didn't know he was going to go that high. The Sacramento Kings take Davion Mitchell. Williams, let's see, I've got the list here right here. So Williams, Zaire Williams out of Stanford, he goes to Memphis via New Orleans. James Bouknight out of Connecticut, he's there as well too. Josh Primo out of Alabama, Chris Duarte out of Oregon, who I also saw. That kid could shoot. He's going to be good for them. And then obviously Moses Moody with the Warriors. And then Corey Kispert out of Gonzaga. We watched him play all through the NCAA tournament. He goes to Washington. And then Corey Kispert. And then Sengun, the Spanish kid. I think he's Spanish, right? If I remember right. He's from Turkey. I'm sorry. Alfred Sengun from Turkey. He goes to Houston. Trey Murphy the third is going to Virginia. Out of Virginia, he goes to New Orleans as well. And then the final parts of the first round Trey Mann out of Florida. Kai Jones, Jalen Johnson, Keon Johnson, Trey Mann out of Florida to Oklahoma City, Kai Jones out of Texas to Charlotte, Jalen Johnson to Atlanta out of Duke, Keon Johnson to the Clippers. From Tennessee, Isaiah Jackson to Kentucky, Garuba out of Spain to Houston, Christopher, Arizona State, Quentin Grimes to Houston, to New York out of the University of Houston. I like him a lot. Bones Highland out of VCU to Denver, Cameron Thomas out of LSU. He can shoot the ball. Brooklyn has him. Like they need another shooter. Jaden Springer, Tennessee to Philadelphia. Day'Ron Sharp, North Carolina, goes to Brooklyn via Phoenix. He's another good shooter. Get the theme there in Brooklyn. And then Aldama out of Loyola, Maryland, goes to Memphis via trade with Utah. So that pretty much takes care of the first round of the NBA draft. Any surprises, any shocks or anything that you like about the draft? There's a lot of guys I saw play on this list, Charlie, and I think they're going to be good pieces right now to start, and maybe 2 years from now will be excellent contributors to their teams.
Well, I think it'll be fun to follow this draft because this certainly was one of the deepest drafts that we've had in years. So I think we're going to enjoy watching this. I really am anxious to see how the players from the G League Ignite team does. I think the fact that you had Jalen Green go second in the draft, I think it's going to be fascinating because I think that players going straight to the G League and then right into the draft and going high, going as first rounders, going as lottery could be a game changer for a lot of players who don't feel like college is the route for them. And for guys being able to stay in the States and not having to go to Europe, not having to go to Australia is a big thing. And I think for those players to be able to come in and be able to learn the NBA style basketball, and as you said, be able to learn NBA defense can really be a leg up for them. And so I'm really excited about that because I've always felt that it's not fair for kids who feel like college is not the route for them to be shut out and being forced into that or being forced overseas. I don't think those should be the only two routes for them. And I'm very excited to see that happen. I thought it was kind of, I thought the Warriors had a terrific draft. You know, everybody kept saying they were going to package those two draft picks up and go for a player. They did not do that. They seemed to want to stay within their salary cap range. And everyone says that they wound up having one of the best drafts in the entire draft yesterday. So it'll be fascinating to see what they had. They at 14, getting Moody, you know, he was projected like at 7. And because of just the way things kept falling because of needs and, in my opinion, dumb decisions, and I will come back to that. They were able to pick him up at there. So I see your 2-minute warning. I'm just going to come back and say I have no idea what my Sacramento Kings did. They claim they went because of the best player available. When you've got a plethora of guards and you make a best player decision with another guard, you have made a giant mistake. We just missed the playoffs again.
Download the podcast anywhere you get it. You can get all the lines right here as we have in the National League, American League, the interleague games as well. All right, in our last minute, Charlie, go with your picks for the weekend.
All right, this is just for today. I have an over 9 in the Philly-Pittsburgh game. In the Milwaukee-Atlanta game, I'm going Milwaukee minus 145. And in the big game here on the West Coast tonight, I'm taking Houston plus 110 against the Giants.
Philly's over 9. Hopefully their offense gets going. Corbin Burns going for Milwaukee against Atlanta and their bullpen. Hopefully Milwaukee gets some bats. Houston plus 110 with Valdez against Gausman tonight at Oracle Park. For me, I'm going with Milwaukee as well. I'm going to go with the over Gonsolin and the Arizona Diamondbacks. They always play high-scoring games. They're over 9. San Diego Padres tonight. I know it's $1.95. Don't like taking heavy favorites. Detroit at 150 again against Baltimore. You got to take Detroit. White Sox tonight as well, too, with Lance Lynn. And I am going with Houston as well, too. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Make the Money and Run podcast. We'll see you Monday, 3 Eastern. The trade deadline will be done. We'll get more into the NFL. We'll get more into NFL training camps, and we'll talk more about the NFL draft. For Charlie O, I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is the Make the Money and Run podcast for July 30th, 2021. Have a great weekend and good luck with all your games.